Good morning, Michelle. Or should I say
Hello,
bonjour?
Oui, bonjour.
Comment allez-vous?
Oui, je suis ça va et toi?
That was the extent of my French.
Well, you did very well, and your accent sounds fantastic, much better than mine.
When I was in school, I never ever thought I would travel the world. So what use was learning languages?
Yeah, that is, sadly, that is what we're all like, I think, in England. Everybody speaks English.
I know. And when we're abroad, if we want to be understood, we just speak louder.
Yeah, we do. That's my husband's father. That was his idea of speaking French. He would just speak very loud, very demonstrative with his hands, and expect people to understand him.
Yeah.
But the French you learn at school, it's very different when you actually live here, talking to people in their native language, with all the slang that they use and the shortcuts that they use. And sometimes now I stand there and think, it actually makes sense now, whereas at school, all this moving verbs and that around didn't make any sense at all. But now it all does.
Okay, well, maybe we ought to stop at this point and explain to the people who are with us today. Michelle and I have been friends for many, many years. The years have gone very, very quickly. And we got to know each other through Needlework. And then Michelle decided to emigrate to France.
Well, we just up sticks and left to France and did what most Brits seem to do, is buy a pile of stones and a lot of land. And 5 years on, we're still renovating.
Yeah. So
I think it takes about 18 months, but hey ho. Okay. I think we've still got another 5 years to go.
There we are. So we met through Needlework. We met because we both blogged, but we actually got together in real life as well. So although we met through blogging, we became real life friends as well. And now we're trying to meet back up again this year. We're never in the same place at the same time.
No.
So we have to
If we can find a slot, it would be lovely. We'll have that belated lunch.
That's right. So anyway, we have to Skype, and we thought we would share one of our calls, one of our natters, with our other stitching friends, and for them to get to know a little bit more about Michelle. Because Michelle, I know you had a background in it was computers for the financial exchange, wasn't it? The stock exchange, was that?
Yes. When I lived in England, I worked in the city, and I used to sell dealing systems in London to all the major banks. And then one day I got fed up with all the noise and I moved down to the south coast because my parents had already bought a place down there, and I commuted up for a while, and then you get fed up with commuting, so I started working locally, and I went to work for a small interior design company, and from there I branched out and set up on my own, and that's what I'm doing over here now. So it's funny how life goes, isn't it?
So when you were in Bournemouth, you were making curtains, blinds, cushions, bedspreads, upholstering. I've seen some of your upholstering, it's wonderful.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. And then you decided to move to France.
Yes, well, it was something we thought we'd been talking about for quite a while, and then just family stuff happens, and we just thought, we're going to do it now, we're never going to do it, so we just did. I always think it's better to live and do things rather than... I don't want to be one of those people that's sitting in my rocking chair when I'm 84 thinking, I wish I'd done that when I had the chance.
Don't worry, we're going to be sitting in our rocking chairs together.
We will. And we'll still be sewing with our massive magnifiers.
No, I've said to Ray, if I'm a widow, I'm going to set up a needleworkers commune. We can all live together and stitch.
That would be fantastic. That sounds like my ideal idea of retirement home. Just nothing but needleworkers.
That would be lovely. So when you moved to France, for quite some time you were renovating what you called Bonkers Farm.
Yeah, we call it Bonkers Farm because it's very quirky. Typically, French houses have lots of small rooms. We had a big room at the back of the house, which was the kitchen, and bizarrely had the bathroom in it. So we had a kitchen, and in one corner we had a shower and a toilet. It's all very, very, very strange, but that's why we called it Bonkers Farm, really, just because the whole layout of the place was completely bonkers. Right. I have no idea what bonkers translates to in French, and we're not going to try it just in case it's something rude and we'll offend the neighbours. But we're just knocking walls down and just making the house a little bit more habitable. And then we've acquired 6 cats on the way, which we never really intended to do, but that's France, and it's what happens, really, I think.
Okay, but now you are using your needlework skills in the business that you've set up, and you're in your store at the moment, aren't you? Tell us a bit about your store.
I'm in the shop now.
Right. So what type of shop is it?
Do you want to have a nosy?
Go on then, and talk us. Well, explain what type of shop it is first. Explain what you do.
Right, well, the shop is called Pouce & Co. And Pouce, I bought the shop from another English lady, and Pouce in French means flea. And the shop is all about renovating and repurposing.
Michelle, put the camera down. You're making us all seasick.
Oh, sorry. You see, I'm so rubbish at this. I'm sorry. Sorry, everybody. Nico's got to keep me on a tight lead here. I'm not safe to be left to my own devices.
You've never changed. All the time I've known you, you have never changed.
I know. I'm just a completely loose cannon.
I know. Right. Okay.
Pouce in French means flea, and the purpose of the shop is repurposing furniture. So one of the things I sell is the Annie Sloan chalk paint, which I think quite a few people will be familiar with. She's a big brand in the UK. She's pretty much worldwide, and I know we have stockists stateside and down in Australia and around the rest of Europe. And that complements the rest of my business very nicely, because obviously I'm an upholsterer, I'm a curtain maker, though curtains in France aren't quite as popular as they are in the UK because everybody has shutters. So I do a lot of upholstery and anything to do with fabric, basically. I will just turn my hand to loose covers, blinds. I just love fabric. I'm just a complete fabric magnet. Yeah. I hoard fabric. I suppose there are worse hobbies.
Okay. How easy is linen for doing counted work on? How easy is it to source in France?
A nightmare. Absolute nightmare. I still order the majority of my supplies through America or through the UK. And a lot of the time when we go back, we come back with a car full of stuff from the UK. Yeah. Just because it's stuff we're familiar with, but a lot of the time it's stuff that we can't get in France. Right. And linen, no, absolutely not at all. Zweigart, yes, but not the fine counts. Probably a couple of online shops. Avia, yes, of course, it's French silk.
Oh, that's
about the one thing I can get here, and I pay less for it than I would do if I went to America. Well,
you haven't had all the export costs, because when you export to another country, no matter where it is, they have to factor in all the extra.
There are all their tariffs to put on, and of course it's going to put the price up. Having said that, the price in France actually has dropped recently. When I first moved out 5 years ago, it was still cheaper to buy it in the UK. Now it's cheaper to buy it in France. Yeah. I don't know why that is.
Well, it's because of our pound. Our pound has dropped with all the problems with Brexit. That's probably why. Now, in France, you have a wider selection of like the 103s and the Safines to what the rest of the world would have.
I didn't quite get that. You would have a wonderful selection of...
With the Auvert Soie, in their 103 and their Safine ranges, you would have a far wider choice of colours.
Oh, really? I see. I haven't used 103, the 103 yet.
Right.
So it's not something I've investigated. I use, for my supplies in France, I use a lady down near Nantes, online, Universe Broderie. She has got a very, very good range of everything, but I haven't, and all of the AVS, the Auto de Ver line, but I haven't investigated the 103 yet.
Okay. Well, I'm thinking about doing a road trip to Paris to go to the store. So you have to come up and meet us.
I will do. When are you coming over?
I'm not sure because, to be honest with you, I am travelling every month. I think
this is what I was thinking. When are you going to fit this in?
I will. I am in France, I think sometimes towards the end of the year, but the wrong part of France. I'm right down at the south. But yeah, we will get together soon because I do want to come over to see you, and I do want to come over to Paris to go to the Auvera store. I'm very interested to see that. Yeah,
I actually have been there many years ago. But yeah, that'd be fantastic, absolutely fantastic. And there are some good shops in Paris, some good little needlework shops, but I suppose things change over.
There's Sajou.
There's what, sorry?
Sajou. I might be pronouncing it wrong.
There's Sajou. Yes, absolutely. No, it's not you. It's the. I think there's some crackle on the line, and I'm going deaf. Max always says to me, "You're going deaf."
It's all that gin you drink.
I only had 2 gins last night.
You were very merry.
Oh, was I? It's not my fault. Max poured them. He did Max measures.
Oh dear, no, it's me with my pot of tea.
Yeah, there is Sajou because they moved. They were out in Versailles, and I think they've now moved into the centre of Paris or closer to the centre.
Right. Well, Krista wants to come back to France. So
yes, 3 amigos back together.
That's right, the 3 amigos. Yeah. Some people will know this, but many people who are with us today will not know that Michelle, Krista, and myself, we used to stitch together. We used to have little stitch-alongs, didn't we? And that's how we really, really got to know each other. And we saw each other through some good times and some bad times. And we were there all the time for each other. And I'm feeling that. Think about it. But you don't forget those times, do you? And that was all through stitching and keeping in touch, several times a week. And, we were all going through major issues in our life at that time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And stitching is such a bond between people who we probably would never have met. We definitely wouldn't have met any other time in life except through stitching.
That's right.
And we've got so many lovely stitchers that are on the various groups that we belong to. And it's like having sort of constant pen pals because you can just dip in and out and talk to people, and then you perhaps don't hear from them for a few weeks, then dip in and out again. And it's lovely that everybody is so supportive of each other. And so complimentary, and so many people want to help you out. If you've got a question, there's always loads of people who've got an answer, and a different way of doing things. And I think that's lovely, always to learn a different way of doing things.
And there is no right or wrong way. It's the way that suits you that is the right way. But what I was going to say was that when you think back all those years that we stitched together, and Krista, yourself, and myself, we've all gone on to reproduce samplers.
We have.
Haven't we? Who ever thought that all those years ago?
Oh, you started it all off. It's your fault. Blame you totally.
Here we are.
Yeah, but no, Krista's designed some lovely things.
So Krista is just stitching along, and you are Mill on the Floss samplers. So
I am Mill on the Floss samplers.
Yes, and I'm your number one fan. I think I bought the first copy.
You did indeed buy the first copy, and you actually are responsible for the first reproduction because you sold me the original sampler.
Well, this sampler had to go to you. Do you want to explain why this sampler was destined for Michelle Moulin White and Moulin Floss samplers?
Well, yes, because she's from a mill. I called myself Moulin the Floss because Moulin means mill in French for those who don't speak French. I think most people probably do know that. And one of my favourite books when I was growing up was Moulin the Floss by George Eliot. And floss is another name for thread.
Yeah.
So
perfect name.
Kind of seemed to be perfect. And
absolutely.
Then you messaged me with this picture of Alice. And you said, and she comes from Gayton Mill, and it just, everything fell into place really. I mean, she was just a must-have.
Yeah.
So, Alice was my first.
She is a beautiful sampler, and I would have reproduced her, but this girl had your name on her.
She did have my name on her, and I am a real sucker for a house.
I know.
I'm a real sucker for a red house. So Alice met both of those criteria straight away. So it was just a done deal, really.
Oh dear.
It's very hard when you're buying samplers. It's very easy to stick to what you're happy with all the time, and I really have to try and drag myself away from the house thing because not everybody likes houses. Other people like other stuff, and I think when you're trying to be commercial, then you do try to,
Michelle,
you need to try and cover all the bases.
I'm never commercial. I only reproduce samplers that speak to me.
Go with your heart.
I have to. I have to. And I'll tell you something now. I have started to reproduce samplers and done a lot of work on them, and then I get a bad vibe from the sampler.
Yes.
Because not all little girls are nice little girls.
No, not all little girls are nice little girls. Both of my girls so far have had very short, sad little lives. Well, we don't know how sad Alice's life was, but she died at 28, so I mean she was relatively young.
Yeah.
Charlotte, my new one, she died at the age of 44, but she was in a lunatic asylum, and that's sad because I want to know why, and I don't know why, because the history is there, the records aren't there. So I didn't get a bad vibe from her. I just felt very sorry for her. But I know what you mean. There are some that
they sort of they make the hairs on the back of your neck stand up, and you think, well, this person wasn't a very nice person, and I just had to put the sampler to one side. I only reproduce samplers that speak to me in a certain way, and it's really strange because I have my ultimate band samplers really fire up my passion, but I also love schoolgirl samplers with great big flowing borders. But then I've recently bought a sampler and it hasn't come yet, and I'm really desperate for this sampler to come, and I've bought it just because of the verse, and it's only about 20 words maybe, but the moment I saw it, it went straight into my heart and grabbed me. You never know what speaks to you about a sampler. Now, one of the things that I've always giggled with Alice is, can you explain what this is?
What? I can't see it looking up.
When we had, because obviously, I had your sampler at Nashville.
Yes.
One lady said, I've got to buy this sampler because of this. And I said, the price. And she said, no, she said, because of that. You'll have to have a look afterwards. Because it would never have entered my head.
What is this? I don't know what you're talking about. Hold on a second. I've got Alice up here now. So what do we?
No. Let people have a look at her on your website. So if people go onto your website and have a look at Alice and see if they can see what that lady saw. So what is your website, Michelle?
My website is mill-on-the-floss-samplers.com.
Right.
But if you just type in Mill on the Floss Samplers into Google, you should be able to pick it up.
Okay.
And on there, you will have the big picture of Alice and the new picture of Charlotte. And yeah, you can find out. Do you know what? This should be some sort of competition. If people can find out what that lady was talking about at Nashville, then I think they need to PM me, and perhaps we'll have some sort of draw, some sort of giveaway for the best answer.
Oh, there we are. So anyway, this week on the 4th of July, you've just brought out your second sampler. Well done.
I have. Thank you.
Well done. So
no, she's a lovely lady.
Show her to us. Show her to us.
Yep. All right. You can see. Tell me if I've got the light right. So this is Charlotte.
She's lovely, Michelle.
Charlotte Kingsley Griffin, and yes, you can see she's got a house going along the middle with two little houses either side. Charlotte was born in Tring, which is a little town about 30 miles north of London. And the reason it's what you're saying about being drawn to samplers. It was the colours. It was the colours on Charlotte that drew me, as well as the house.
Yeah.
All the beautiful golds and the greens, coppers, and the colours. I'll just show you the back.
Yeah, it's like, because it's lovely for people to be able to see the back. Because so few people have the opportunity to see the back of a sampler.
Now, I took the colours for the model off from the back. They are slightly brighter than the front. I think the front. I think she's been hanging in a room with an open fire for very, very many years. So although the colours aren't really faded, they're a little bit grubby.
Yeah.
So there we go. Let me show you the back again.
Okay. That's lovely. Maybe we can. How about if you showed us the front of the booklet, and that might show.
Yeah, let me show you that.
Because of the reflection on the glass.
There you go. So that's Charlotte. Is that a good?
Can you push on a bit closer to the camera? And down a bit. Just hold it. Awake thy soul with utmost care, thy true condition learn. What are thy hopes? How sure, how far, and what thy great concern? That's rather sweet, isn't it? Now I saw the chart you wrote. It's taken from a hymn, isn't it? And now my soul another year.
It is written by a chap called Simon Brown.
Yeah. That's lovely.
1720, yeah.
Yeah. When you were telling me about Charlotte, I actually had a look on the family history sites, and obviously she was admitted into a lunatic asylum. And the one thing that puzzled me was, why was she admitted as a pauper when her mother had quite a lot of money? And when Charlotte died in the asylum, she left effects of £1,500, and £1,500 was a lot of money then.
She did. I don't know. There's no record. I can't find any record of her going into the asylum. So there's no entry record we can put our hands on.
There is. But Michelle, there is an entry record. I found it.
On the record of her death. Have you found a record? I haven't found that.
I found
on the record of her death. It does say she entered as a pauper. That's the only thing I could find, was that she went in as a pauper.
I think I found the actual admission entry, and she's listed as a pauper. And I just couldn't understand that, because, her mother certainly, like a farm of 200 acres, that is a big farm. That's a
they're big farmers.
Yeah. And like for her, like as you said, her mother left provision for her. And then when she died, to have had £1,500, how much would that have equated to? That's a lot of money. The houses would have been about £50.
She left her £500, and £100 in those days is the equivalent of £12,000 today.
Okay.
So her mother left in trust for her the equivalent of £60,000.
Okay, but when Charlotte died,
it reverted back to the
when
estate.
Charlotte died, the probate of Charlotte's will is on the internet, and she left an estate of £1,500.
So she's got
that's £180,000.
Yeah. They were not a poor family. They were most definitely not a poor family at all.
And how old was she when she was admitted to the asylum?
She was born in 1825. She went into the asylum in 1852. So that would make her 27.
Okay, so she may have been admitted to the asylum because she had a mental health problem, but she could have been admitted to the asylum because she had had a baby or she was pregnant. Because
she could well have done. And this is where, I mean, we have so much wonderful information now on ancestry, but what we're always missing is all that personal stuff, the diaries, the letters, the family gossip. We can't capture that unless we're really, really lucky. But one of the things with Charlotte and her family is they come from that area, and for generations. So sometimes you find with the girls you're scrapping around for information on them. With Charlotte, I just had so much. There was just so much information on her family. It was a challenge to be selective and decide what to go put into the booklet and what not to put into the booklet. So I hope if people are interested, they can go and do a bit more research.
Because I was thinking about it, like obviously she wasn't a mentally handicapped person because she stitched her sampler like a child who had maybe had a lack of oxygen at birth or something like that would not have been capable of doing this sampler. So we know that as a child, as a teenager, she was fine. So it was something in later life. And it could have been that she was pregnant, or maybe she wanted to marry a man that her mother didn't approve of. Maybe she just stood up for herself.
It could have been any of those things, because women in Victorian England, they have very few rights. And they could be locked away in an asylum for any slight thing. But it could. I mean, what we call today bipolar is quite accepted. But in those days, any sort of depression any sort of difficulty, they could quite easily have been put away. And it's very sad. It's very, very sad.
But it's really, really lovely that you've reproduced her, because you've given her new life. You've given her childhood back now.
I hope so. But I am in touch with her cousin 4 times removed through the ancestry. Unfortunately, she wasn't really able to tell me much more than I could glean from ancestry. But it is nice to have a connection in this day and age. And I do know that there are ancestors of Charlotte's family living in America. So you never know. One of them might be watching this now.
So, do you know what? I bought a sampler that is a beautiful sampler. It's in wonderful condition. And when I started to research it, I actually found an ancestor of the little girl, and I contacted them and I said, if you would like to have the sampler back, I feel that it's yours rather than mine. But I wasn't interested. Do you know what? If I found a sampler that had been stitched by one of my and I should have used the word descendant back then, one of her descendants. If I found a sampler stitched by an ancestor, I would go to the end of the earth to get it.
I'm trawling the internet for a sampler, and it will probably be a fruitless search. But my great-grandmother, Julia Brown, she had a sampler, and I never saw it, but my cousin, Jill, who lives in Australia, they spent a year living with my great-aunt in the house that she lived in with my great-grandmother before they immigrated to Australia, and that was in 1972. And Jill said to me the other day online, she said, do you know, Auntie had Julia's sampler in her back bedroom. She said, and to this day, she said, I'm kicking myself for not nicking it when we left to Australia. And I said, oh,
can you say hello?
Auntie would have been over the moon.
My husband is just correcting.
Hi there. I don't know if you can see me, which way? I just went off to golf.
What a surprise. Do you like his parrots?
Yeah.
He's a pretty boy today. He's got parrots on his t-shirt.
And Bertie's in here now as well.
Oh, yes, I can just see you.
Right, I'm off then.
Bye, darling. Bye.
So
Have a nice day. He can stay in.
Yeah.
Okay, love you. Bye-bye.
Bye, love.
Have a good game, Ray.
He will. He's going off with some friends. There's 4 of them playing today. And they had to dress in white and red to celebrate Canada Day. So I'm not quite sure why, but they're celebrating Canada Day on this little golfing day. So
oh, how brilliant! It's going to be a hot one, so I hope he's got his sunblock on.
yes, yeah. So Michelle, it's wonderful that you have taken Charlotte back from what must have been a horrific time in the asylum back to her childhood, which hopefully was a happy time. And you've made her available for all of us. So well done.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your support. You are...
What are friends for?
Well, I know, but you're such a wonderful friend. It's lovely to have the support. And I have to say, I have learned so much from you because, you know, you're 3 or 4 years ahead of me. You've had some beautiful samplers out. And I've learned an awful lot from watching you.
But I learned a lot from people who went before me. And, you know, I have so much to thank Miss Jean Lee for, and like Barbara Hudson. Those 2 ladies were there answering every single question I had, and I had so many different questions. So, you know, it's only passing on the kindness that was shown to me. And, you know, you are my friend.
I know, but that is what is lovely about the stitching world, that you don't find necessarily in, if I say, like, inverted commas, the normal commercial world. I mean, people are very protective of their knowledge. People can be, obviously, because it gives them a head start, but you don't have that in the stitching world. I do find people are very, very keen and very willing to share, and that is what's so lovely.
It depends why you're doing something. Like for me, this isn't a business. This is a end result of my hobby, and I consider what I do putting back into needlework. You've got a visitor now.
Somebody's just come into the shop. I'm actually not open, but Deb's just walked in. It's okay, Deb. Hello. Hello, the new dog. It's all right.
Oh, it looked like you were.
No, I'm not actually open. I'm just coming to do a video link with a friend in Cornwall. So.
Then I do want some.
You want some paint? That's absolutely fine. Can you give me 5 minutes?
Yeah.
Perfect. No problem. Have a nosy around. Yeah, lovely.
You'll never be able to, Michelle. You'll never get anything in 5 minutes. I know you.
I get business. So.
Well, talking of Miss Jean Lee, I understand that you have got the very great honour.
I have.
Jazz hands.
I have jazz hands. I have the very great honour of being the July sampler of the month.
Well,
and I have to say, I think that is because of something that happened with you, and you having to release your samplers early.
Oh, don't talk about that.
Space up. So, you know, one person's bad luck is another person's good luck.
No, you deserve it on your own merit.
Oh,
so.
Thank you. Jean's been very supportive, as has Kim at Sass's. They've both been incredibly supportive.
Yeah.
And it's lovely. It's really lovely. Like I say, it's stitching world.
Yeah, absolutely. And if people are going to Sassy Jack's, they're going to be able to see Charlotte there.
They will. The model is there with Sassy's with Alice.
Yes.
So they're keeping each other company.
Oh, I've seen Alice there. Alice hangs next to Jane.
Oh, yes, she does.
Yes, she does.
Yes, Alice is hanging next to Jane. Yeah, she is. I don't know where Kim's going to put Charlotte, because she's, every time I see Kim's shop, it's just another sampler's been added and another sampler's been added.
And beginning of October, so I'll make sure I take a photograph of them so that you can see where they're hanging.
Oh, lovely, thank you.
In fact, I'm speaking to Kim later on today, so I'll ask her where she hangs.
Yes, well, it would be, yes, I mean, I don't mind where she's hanging. I mean, it's just lovely that she's there with everything else. And, Kim's got such a lovely shop. And I do aspire to visit there one day, and the attic, of course. Next time we go to the States. Yeah. No, that would be a road trip.
Yeah. When I was at Sassy Jack's, well, I suppose it was only really a few weeks ago, Kim had all of Barbara Hudson's Queentown samplers, her samplers there, and they looked absolutely fabulous. Yes. And she had Sissy's samplers, gentle.
I love that one.
They were gorgeous. It was really, really lovely seeing them. And there was another lovely sampler that Robert Smith model stitched for Tinker, Victorian. I always get his name wrong. I'm sorry, Tinker. Victorian Needlework Arts.
Yes,
everybody knows Tinker.
She was selling some samplers yesterday, Tinker was, and I did see one I was interested in, and now I can't find the post again, but I shall look again a bit later.
It's on our sampler, yes, because I saw it. They're lovely samplers, actually.
They are. She's got some lovely stuff. But I've put a bit of an embargo on buying at the moment. So I've got too many in the pipeline.
So did you stitch Charlotte, or did a model stitcher?
No, I stitched Charlotte and I stitched Alice. I've got one coming out mid-September time called Sarah Ellis. And she was stitched by a model. She was stitched by Bonnie Olson. Bonnie lives in Massachusetts. And she has done an absolutely beautiful job with Sarah. And she's quite a small sampler, so something for people who perhaps don't like something quite so large.
Right.
And she'll be coming out mid to end September, I would think. So, well, that's the first time I've used a model, and I have to say it was a lovely experience. And Bonnie has done a really, really lovely job. Beautiful stitching.
I love the times I have with my model stitchers because, again, it's like having a stitch along. It pulls you together. You know, you're in regular contact, and it's a lovely time working with the model stitcher. And this is why I call them collaborations. You know, I chart my samplers, but it's my model stitchers that bring the samplers to life.
Absolutely.
It's such a special moment seeing a sampler come to life after sort of being dormant for a century or so.
And it was lovely opening the envelope when she came back. It was like Christmas because the last time I'd seen her was the pattern going off to America, and then I opened it and it was just a beautiful sample already stitched, and it was. I don't know, do you look at them, do you see them a little bit differently when somebody else has stitched it rather than you've been working on it yourself?
Well, I don't know about that because the people I work with, they send me, regular updates, and it's very, we work together, in seeing how things work, and so I tend to follow the progress all the way through. But of course, a photograph never does a sample justice.
Exactly.
So
this was it.
That you always have this wonderful thrill when you open the envelope.
And that was very much the thrill when I opened it, because obviously Bonnie had sent me photographs of the progress, but there's nothing to compare with. We'd collaborated on it. We'd discussed things, and she'd corrected some bits for me. And but opening it and actually seeing the actual sampler there was something special.
I always get very tearful.
Yeah, I did actually.
Yeah, I always do. Samplers can really actually move me to tears. I think the first time I saw the Fenner collection, it was I felt so emotionally drained when I left there.
I get that.
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah.
My husband would have the same feeling over a V8 engine, but that sort of thing would go completely over my head. So.
Oh dear me. So here we are. Anyway, Michelle, your client, I told you couldn't get it in 5 minutes.
I know, we would do it in 5 minutes. So I shall say goodbye now and love you and leave you.
Okay.
Until our next time.
Okay then. Bye bye, sweetheart.
Bye-bye.
And bye bye to everybody else. Okay.
It's Deb and her dog, and it's a new
I
dog.
can't help but listening, and
Okay, well, Michelle, we're still recording.
We are.
All right then.
Take care,
Bye.